Hello and welcome back. It's going to be an odd sort of video this week. We're going to have a look at the layout and how it got to the stage it's at today and potentially the future of it. So we're just going to move these blue and grey coaches back into the station, get them right up to the buffer stop there. And now I'm going to uncouple off camera and roll back out onto the inside line. Terrific model, this R857 from the mid-70s. I had a lot of fun with it over the week, and I featured it in last week's video too. So we're just going to have a quick look at the layout today, but I'm also going to sort of roughly explain how it got there, or how we got to this point. I had Tri-ang Hornby model railway as a child back in the 70s. It was largely given to me as a bulk amount one Christmas to share with my brother, and we had a great time with it. My brother lost interest and I became quite interested in it. And that went right through into sort of very early teens when I lost interest completely. And that was it, it was packed away. Had no interest in it at all until this train set came along when my son was 7 in 2013. The Midland Flyer, his grandmother very kindly gave him this train set, and we sort of set it up on the dining room table, and then made the dining room table bigger with a bit of chipboard, and things sort of went downhill, you could say, from there. So we ended up building this layout with various trips to the model shop, getting other bits and pieces, and you can see already that we have Tri-ang Hornby type locomotives creeping in here. We've got the R751 diesel in blue there. If you look here, we've got the other one, the green version that came along in the mid-60s there. We've got a diesel shunter, and my other, or our other at this stage, Lima locomotive. That's a crab there, and there's the little 040 from the Midland Fly set. We've got a Tri-ang Ginty there, and we've got a 262 tank, and that's a Britannia sitting on that very temperamental turntable. And here we've got the Mark 1 coaches in blue and grey, and you can see I've already got an incline built there, but more importantly I've got Series 3 and Super 4 on the layout underneath. Everything was sort of wired up with point switches, and even down below here this all became electrified as time went on. You can see we've got the R55 single-ended diesel there with a dummy, so that was a terrific thing. And I had also developed the interest in catenary, and this is up to about 2014 when this was happening, and more time spent playing with this one than this one eventually, and my son inevitably lost interest, so this one developed. And there's that Bobo Electric that I put the numbers back on and painted a little the other week, so I had it right back from then. I used it to test and set up this catenary. I've got both styles of the catenary, the early phase 1 with the pressed steel parts and the wire, playing with both. So I do have bits of both, and this wonderful turntable. I can't remember which Hornby loco that is. It didn't work well with the catenary. The design of the pantograph isn't good. It catches on the clips. It actually works better on the older catenary than it does on the slightly newer. So that sort of transpired like that, and then it was obvious I needed to get this off the floor and up onto the table. But as things go, you know, I've been playing with Hornby 00 as well. So I had a quick infatuation with Hornby 00, and I've got enough of it to have fun, as they say. This was a layout. Sadly, strangely, I don't have any sort of still pictures of it, which is quite surprising. There is some video. There is one video on YouTube. This layout I built and then adjusted. It does fit on 8x4, which is what I was playing with at the time, but it is so close to the edges in reality. I took away that because one day the Duchess of Montrose, she just came straight off the line over and onto the floor with an entire rake of coaches. Quite frightening. Terrific noise. Duchess was completely unharmed by the experience. I took away that, moved everything across, and eventually I think I had this rail joining through here, all manual points. There is a single video online of that layout. I do have a number of other pieces of footage which I might put together as a video for that. So that was about 2015, occupied most of that, but towards the end of that year I was sort of starting to think about playing with the Tri-ang Hornby stuff, which I was still collecting at the time. So I'd seen a plan in here, and I was still using the nickel track, thinking about using the nickel track, and it was number 9 which really took my fancy at this point. This isn't a complete book, there are pages missing, so number 9 seemed to suit what I was after. An 8x4 board, and I decided to make my layout bigger, because I calculated that if I wasn't having a dining room table anymore I could expand, so I decided I could have 10x5. So just for ease of use we'll put this away, and there is the 8x4 plan 9, and I fiddled around with it and expanded it out so I could have it at 10x5. So I've got some straights in here, and I've significantly increased the space here and making the incline gentler, because this incline was quite severe. I've got the flyover just there, and look at the length of the stations I was able to lengthen here. Obviously we've got way more straight track there, so that was quite an adaptation. But it became obvious when I was sort of laying this out on the table, I had this great big gap in here, and this sort of was seemed a little bit redundant, and there was no turntable. So I'd started fiddling around with the Super 4 in the centre, and I'd got one of these nice turntables, the slightly later grey one at the time, and you can see how I've adapted the station. So I devised the crossovers, but I used those converter tracks, which puts a very big gap between the rails. Let's just put that over there. So everything in yellow was System 6, everything in black was Super 4. So we have those converter tracks there, the number of which escapes me. So it put a very big gap in there, made it sort of some awkward spaces. So this happened, sort of took shape end of 2015, and sort of developed. It didn't all happen at once. It got better, but theoretically there was three circuits on here, but this diamond crossing was always the problem. So it had to go, really. So I was sort of brave and running 2 trains and sometimes 3 trains at once on this layout. And if you notice now, even though I have 2 circuits, I still probably just run one at a time now. The risk of accidents, especially when filming it, is quite high, and I really don't want to damage things. If it's just you or just yourself playing with the trains and trying to film at the same time, it really is quite difficult. So the other thing that happened with this layout is, and again I've mentioned this to a number of people, this was all nickel track, the yellow track, the yellow System 6 circuit here, and also most of my stuff, was Tri-ang Hornby, Tri-ang Railways and so on. So it didn't climb the incline very well, so I decided to swap the nickel track for steel track, and the difference is just massive. It transforms it. The trade-off is you've got a lot more track cleaning to do. So eventually, I think all but a couple of points were changed over to steel track. The pulling power was just immense. It really changed and made the models run very nicely. But the next step really was, I could only use some of the models, quite a lot of the models, in fact, only on this sort of smaller inner circuit, which had the catenary as well. So things had to change. But this was such a nice piece in here with the catenary, I decided to take away the Super 4 and, not take away the Super 4, take away the System 6 and turn it into what we have here. So this was all Super 4, but it retains. I've got that the right way up. It retains this basic inner circuit there. So instead of having a flyover, we had the incline starting about here, running all the way up suspension bridge, and then it comes back down the flyovers there. Let's just have a swift look at these pictures here of the layout with System 6. Just a quick look again. There's quite a few videos of it. That's the big crossovers, those converter tracks there. So it's just trying to remember to mention all of these pieces, and then let's have a quick look. And there's the flyover. So you can see the inner circuit here is Super 4 outer circuit, System 6 including the flyover on one of these sort of Hornby girder bridges. So we'll just pop that to one side. So that changeover to all Super 4 happened probably 2017, and the majority of it I decided to put the catenary on, with the exception of these sidings here. And the flexibility is just huge. It means I could use massive amounts of my collection now, which, as you've seen in the videos if you watch, seems to keep growing. For me, I enjoy collecting the items. It's not about railways really, it's about playing with toy trains, and I'm very pleased with this layout. But been going about 3 years in this sort of setup now. I'm seriously thinking about a bit of a change. So I'll just grab the other camera and we'll have a quick look at the layout with a plan in my hand at the same time. So here is the layout as we've been playing with it today. We can see the elevated section in the distance and the turntable and the station and the 3 lines running into it. You can see the crossovers between. We've got the inside line, outside line, passing loop, and you've got access to all of them via one means or another there. So if we just have a swift look at the layout plan there, you can see exactly that. So I've got 2 distinct circuits. Red line is the outside, so it goes up and over, so you've got a much longer route. The routes can change and you can run through the passing loop between the 2 lines as well. And then that blue line there, the blue circuit, that's the one that's a hangover from the earlier layout. So this was with the System 6. As you can see, I've still got everything that was in the centre there. So there's the engine sheds, although I've extended the track a little bit, and there's the turntable. So we've got the same basic setup. If you have a look at that to the plan, remember, plans are plans. They're not exactly like the track. Even if you plan it out, it never goes down quite as you think it's going to go. So if you just have a look at one of these snaps of the old System 6 layout there. So I'm looking from about the same viewpoint. Let's try and move some of this paper out of the way. So there's the turntable and the engine sheds, and there we have it. So I just left that in place. So it was quite a constraint when I made this layout. There are things that I wanted to do which I couldn't do. I wanted 3 circuits and it wasn't possible to get 3 to work. So there's that old Hornby flyover there, and I had a spur off into here which sort of went to nowhere at the time. Let's see if I have a look at the track plan there. So that would be that. So I've got a spur off the end of the passing loop on this current layout, which is the most annoying bit on the whole layout. So I hope that sort of answers some questions, or possibly it brings up more than it's answered. But that's the layout as it stands at the moment. I'm considering quite a significant change, a slightly larger layout. I've just developed more space, so we went from that to this. So I'm hoping to utilise some more of the space that we see either side of the layout there to have a slightly larger layout. Let's see how it develops. It'll be over the next year or so. So I've got this. I've already lost some furniture to try and create space. There used to be a table over here, so we will be changing at some point, although I don't know at what point that's going to be. So when I have an idea, you'll see it progress. It will be a progression, and I think I'm going to take the time to when I do eventually clear this, we'll take the time to experiment with some of the other Tri-ang items I have. Perhaps have a play with some of the Series 3 track items, and especially some of the elevated track and the sidewalls would be quite nice to have a play with. But it's been very nice, this layout, and it's a huge amount of fun. But at the moment, I think this is as far possibly as I'm going to take it. When you've got one thing, you think, oh, I could just do that. And you always want more space. I think however much space any of us have for a layout, we're always going to desire more, or, better. I don't know. I'm playing with 50-year-old, at best 50-year-old toys here. It's not going to get much better than this. This is the as far as the design went, really. And people keep asking me, where does my collection stop? And it's probably about 1980. You've got this nice mix of wagons that we're seeing today, or we're going to see. I'm going to get that IVAT and collect this bunch of late 70s wagons and these sort of mid-late 60s wagons there. We'll have a play on the layout with those, and see how we do. So I think we'll see if we can catch up with the IVAT, and we'll see what she'll do with the wagons. And there she is, on her way up towards points number 1 with the colour light signals there. And we'll throw the points. Nice change on the signals there. And into the sidings. So we'll collect the first group of wagons. These are the older ones from the mid-60s through to the late 60s, I think. Nicely through there. I made a mistake earlier saying that at best these were 50 years old. Some of these items are only 40 years old. Sorry about that. So back into the sidings. We'll collect that other group. We had those on the railway with the B12 just a few weeks ago. So these are from the sort of mid-70s, I think. Looking good coming through there. Great rattle you get from these wagons. Some of them are very hollow and quite light. We'll snap those points shut. Off around the engine shed. So it's a relatively heavy load. There's lots of wheels, lots of friction. Half of these have got the silver seal wheels, of course, and half of them they've got plastic wheels, so there's a great deal more friction on there. Lovely noise coming across that point right there, I think. Looking beautiful there, into that curve. So we'll run around the curve behind the engine shed, and we'll plan to go through points 8, and we'll get the whole lot onto the outside line, I think. Diesel rail cars looking good there. Points snapped open. Some of these look a little bit jumpy, but they're hanging in there. And again, it's a terrific noise. I know I keep saying that, but it really is all part of it. The sound of toy trains on toy track. Under the underpass, you can see that short run of fencing I put in a few weeks ago there. I was quite pleased with that. EM2, my all-time favourite, I think. I've mentioned that to a number of people, that that's possibly the favourite of the lot. It really is a pretty thing. And of course, runs from the overhead. Look at that, I don't think she's having any trouble up there. No wheel slip at all. Slight wobble though on some of those wagons, isn't there? Almost to the top there. And then across that suspension bridge, makes a completely different sound up there. And of course the weight of those wagons, once we go on the downward section, is going to want to speed the whole thing up. And then passing that EM2 again, look at those wheels go. A lot of weight there. I had intended to finish the video as the wagons passed out a shot around here. But then when I stood up and I was having a look at where I'd stopped the wagons, I was thinking, well, perhaps I should have a go at backing the whole lot around the layout. Although the IVAT will be going forward, it should be pushing the wagons So I think we'll have a go at pushing those wagons back up the incline and across the bridge, and then we'll bring them around and we'll bring them through that crossover the wagons are sitting on at the moment. We'll see how we do with that. So I'll just get a comfortable seat here and swap hands with the camera again, and we'll give it a little power. So grab the right controller and away we go. We'll see what happens. So just starting to get the weight of the incline there, weight of the wagons, sorry. Give a little bit extra power on the locomotive. I think we may have a problem as it climbs up onto the suspension bridge, that slight change, that angle from that straight track just rolling onto the bridge there. Sometimes causes coaches to derail at that point. Nice light coming through the window there underneath the wagons. Just back off the power a little. Not so much energy needed now she's on level. And all those wagons are going to pull the eye back down the hill again. Get that extra rattle from the sidewalls on the elevated section as well. Let's see if we can follow that around. And then under the flyover. Again, it is very bright, that light coming through the window today. And then we'll have a nice gentle stop just before point 8 at the end of the platform there. Now, if I reach for the appropriate switch, we'll switch those points and see if we can get those wagons through onto the inside line. And then a little more power. Make a great sound, don't they? And then we'll just throw that switch. So I think that's probably it for this week. Relatively long video. Hope that sort of answers the questions about sort of how the layout's got to the stage it's at and what the potential plans would be. Quite fluid, I imagine. Just this wagon, I meant to mention it earlier, is very light. It hasn't got any markings on it. And it's from a starter set, I think, and it was causing me problems earlier in the day, and I've just added a weight from an old wagon, an old broken wagon, and it completely solved it. It just kept jumping the rails. So they do need a little bit of weight. But yeah, as I was saying, it's been great fun, this layout, but you know, we will want to move on and try different stuff from time to time. So this one's been with me about 3 years-ish, I think, now. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun changing over whenever that begins, but you will see it happen, and my videos usually run about sort of 6 weeks ahead of time. So this one was recorded 6 weeks ago, but no firm plans to start changing it at present, but perhaps towards the end of the year. But thanks again. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's really appreciated that you keep looking back and watching. Goodbye now.